All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to The Final Word. Today we're starting local, but certainly not light. It sounds like something straight from a movie, but it's a very real problem, and for all you North Jersey residents, it's right in your backyard. See, at 21 years old, Graham Dooner has the same wit and easy charisma that keeps him on the edge of trouble as a student at Ridgewood High School. He cracks jokes. He drops lines like ipso facto into conversation. He could talk for hours about the history of the labor movement in Paterson. But nearly 2 years after intravenous heroin use has consumed his body of 6'4" his pale arms are lined with track marks, slender yellow bruises from daily injections. Beneath his Knicks cap and a mop of reddish hair, Dooner's handsome face is gaunt and clammy, haunted by a bluish pallor and spotted with sores. His yellow teeth are worn along the edges. With shooting heroin, people say it is something they would never, ever do, Dooner said. But I mean, things change in a flash, especially when you're addicted to opiates. Your levels, yours, I won't go past that line, they quickly diminish. Wow. This is something that shocked me, considering it's going on right in our own, like I said, right in our backyard in Paterson, New Jersey.
And probably in Jersey City and other urban areas also. We can't just single out Paterson, but
Right.
For this story, Paterson is in the news here.
Right. You know, and I was reading his story, and he says, a smart boy, a witty young man, a promising future. So the question is why and how? Well, like he said, it all started with a lacrosse injury. He was given some painkillers, and then he required stronger painkillers, and then his mother received back surgery, and he stole her painkillers. So what I'm getting at here is there's obviously other gateway drugs that lead to heroin use.
Such as?
Well, like we said, the big one I was reading about were painkillers. Those were, they seem to really jump out on the list because people are more quick to use a painkiller because it is a medication. It can be used in the proper forms, and it can be helpful. Obviously, things like cocaine, things like heroin are not helpful. People know that. They're not used for medication anymore. So people, of course, don't jump straight into that. But what happens is there's a need for more. When you have some, you want more. When you give someone an inch, they want a foot. When they have a foot, they want a yard. And it seems that that's what happens with Dooner in this case, and then many other young adults.
Well, but let me ask you this question. What makes what seems on the surface a person has everything, comes from kind of a wealthy family, has his whole future, or her whole future in front of them, doing pretty well in school, and they have this hidden life, and in some instances not so hidden,
Right.
and they get addicted, and sometimes their parents are aware of this. They even take them to Paterson to get the drugs. So, I mean, what's going on here?
Right, and you know what? Paterson is not as urban as places like Bayonne, Jersey City. It is more suburban.
Some areas.
Some areas, and he was from a suburban area.
Who's from? Some of them come from like Ramsey, Allendale,
Right.
Upper Saddle River. Wealthy neighborhoods.
Right, and I think that's it. I think we tapped into something there. I think what happens is these kids that have it all, that have a wit, that have intelligence and a promising future, they get bored. And they just need something. I don't think it's pressure. I don't want people to mistake it with, the academic pressures or outside extracurricular pressures, because I don't think that's it. What I think it is kids get bored. They have too much.
There's an emptiness.
There's an emptiness. I think that's exactly it. And they fill it with, unfortunately, what starts out as painkillers to these life-threatening and like I was reading here, it said Dooner had a life-threatening overdose, and it leads to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess after that, the question is, where do you go from there? He was arrested. Where do you go from there? You can only get help if you want help, and I think he does want help. But it was scary the way he described it. He said that, these are all things when you grow up, you say, oh, I'm never going to do that. Especially these hard kinds of drugs. Oh, I would never get into that. And then he said you try it once, and you become so addicted to it that in order to function normally, you need it. Now, to me, that's scary. That really is scary.
That's the definition of addiction.
Right. When you become so dependent on a substance that your daily life cannot go on without it, you're in trouble. And luckily, he did recognize he was in trouble, and a lot of these, like they made 89 arrests in Patterson. I think that was the best thing for these addicts. What it does is it forces them to at least address the issue.
There was a story this morning. The boy's last name was McMillan or something. One day out of rehab, and his grandfather, who was taking care of him, finds him on the bathroom floor, dead.
Yeah.
Out of rehab, one day. And it's just tragic.
Right, and I think the real problem is not everyone kicks it. Not everyone kicks the habit. The way the description of these drugs are that they become life-changing. They become something that you need, like food, like air, like shelter. That's scary. That really is scary. And I'm sure growing up, the young man I was talking about heard cases of like his, where this drug is so addictive that it becomes a staple in your life. And I'm sure he said, and he said, oh, I would never do that. There's a line that you cross, and there's a line that you don't cross. And hard drugs like that really draw the line. And he said growing up, there was a very distinguished line that he would never cross. But he said once you try it, once you get addicted, that line disappears. And a substance that can do that needs to be kept out of the hands of everyone.
We have all seen movies where the first couple of times the pusher gives it to the person for free. Hey, just try this. This is free. And they give them it a couple of times, and by the third or fourth time of free heroin or whatever, they're hooked. Right. And now all of a sudden it's not free anymore. Now I can't give it to you for free. It's going to cost at least a couple $100, and it just goes up from there.
Right. I was reading a story about a 21-year-old man who had been addicted to not heroin but opium-infused pills for about a year and a half. His fiancée did not know it. Eventually, he did get arrested. He was busted. But he would find ways to fit it into his daily life. And he said one of these pills, they were called Blues, cost $30 a pill. And he needed 6 a day to really get high, because what happens is your body does build up a tolerance. And then he said eventually, like I said, he did get arrested, and his fiancée did find out. But he looked back and the damage was done. Physically, yes. Mentally, yes. Relationship-wise, yes. But financially, over the past year and a half, he spent $45,000 on pills.
Amazing amount of money.
That's incredible.
Yep.
For some people, that's a salary.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it hits all aspects of someone's life, not just the physical aspect of it or the mental aspect of it. It does hurt relationships, and it does hurt finances, and it's a problem. It's a very real issue.
I think Steven Tyler, who you may know from Aerosmith, said his addiction to cocaine has cost him millions and millions of dollars over the years. I mean, if he adds it all up. So it's very costly, and it's very hard to kick. Michael, I'm going to have to, maybe we'll have a part 2 of this, but I want to let the girls on, so why don't you sign off for us?
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to The Final Word. We'll see you next time.